Welcome to the Local Guys Business Show, the show that talks about all things small business. For people who would love to learn tips to make your business more successful or would like to own their own business one day. Sit down with your host, Jared Goulding. Strap in and let's get the show started.
Okay, no worries. Well, Phil, thanks so much for joining us, mate. I'm glad that we managed to get on. I wanted to take the opportunity today to have a good chat with you, and you're obviously joined us from the Test and Tag division down in Launceston in Tasmania. And yeah, just wanted to touch base and talk about your journey with the Local Guys and your business journey and how things have been tracking in that regard and all the rest of it. So did you want to start with maybe just introducing yourself a little bit and then maybe telling us what you were doing previously to joining the Local Guys Test and Tag?
Well, I'm a franchise partner, in fact the only one in Tasmania, so it requires a little bit of driving. Before that though, I was in radio for about 30 years. Still do a little bit when they need something done on a contract basis, but basically I listen to music all day and played with computers. So
you're the guy that's on the radio talking and all the rest of it and playing songs. Was that your role, or you were behind the scenes?
Both.
Both.
I played the music. I in fact programmed the radio station, but I did a lot of tech stuff behind the scenes, installing a 5 kilowatt transmitter at one station and a whole studio system. And I suppose that's where I first came across Test and Tag. It was a few years ago when I was at another radio station, and there was a client who was an electrician, and he mentioned the need for Test and Tag. So that was the first time I actually saw it.
Really? So you were thinking, what the heck is that?
To begin with, yeah. This was over 10 years ago, I suppose.
Yep.
So it was a while ago.
Sure. Very, very similar to my story. I was working in Telstra at the call centre and saw the Test and Tag guy walk through and thought, what the heck is that? And just found it very fascinating and interesting. And same as you, I thought you had to be an electrician to do it. Discovered that you didn't, and then rest is history. So okay, so you had a client that was an electrician and he explained what it was. So how do you get from there to starting your own Test and Tag business?
Sort of sat in the back of my mind for a while, and got to the stage where after 30 years, thought radio, even though I love playing music and all of that, I was looking for something different. So I thought maybe IT. No, Test and Tag, that's something a bit different. So I started exploring it then.
What elements of Test and Tag do you think stood out to you?
Ooh, good question. I suppose the first thing was, just testing the equipment to make sure it worked. With IT, connecting networks, you test it, make sure it works. So I think it was sort of an easy jump to understand that side of things. Of course, fire extinguishers and everything else was different.
So you're technically minded sort of person, so similar types fields in being both technical, and thought some of the skills would transfer over and things like that?
Yeah, well, a lot of the time I'm dealing with computers and things like that, so it's not really a different kind of environment for me.
Yeah,
it was an easy jump.
Yep, sure, no worries at all. And so then obviously you went through that due diligence process, and how did, there's a number of Test and Tag businesses out there. What was the reasoning that you ended up deciding that Local Guys was the right opportunity for yourself?
Ooh. I think the one thing that really stood out was, I suppose, the income guarantee for the first 12 months. That said to me that you really believed in what was, well, the whole process, and you really believed that we can do what we need to do. So I think that stood out. I don't think anybody else had that sort of a guarantee.
Sure, sure. Okay, no worries. And then, so obviously, you've made the decision to sort of come on board, which I remember that training session. I remember us going out to sushi together, and you talking about your daughter, and there's a story about your daughter with sushi or something like that. I think you took a photo and sent her something that you were when we were. I can't remember. I think you vaguely remember what I'm talking about. But anyway. So obviously came down to Adelaide and you did the training with us. How was that experience?
Invaluable, especially the on the job. Being there with you, going through it all, sort of just cemented what I'd already gone through with I did the training online, the license. But the on the job stuff was the best. Getting practical experience in seeing, the theory, put it into practice.
Yeah, yeah. There's no substitution, I think, for actually getting out there and throwing you in the deep end and going out to real clients and sort of going, oh, okay, the light bulb turns on now, and I can see it firsthand, and I'm physically doing it. Even if there is a trainer here, I can kind of physically do it. So how was it then after going through that experience and then going out and performing your first job? Was that quite nerve-wracking? Because you've got no bumper bars up then, do you? It's all feel.
Yeah, I remember the very first one. It took me a long time. Yeah, I think what would take me now 20 minutes, I think, was over an hour. But it was nerve-wracking, but at the same time, it was yeah, it was exhilarating at the same time. This is my job. This is what I'm doing now. And after it, you go, well, it wasn't that bad.
And I think once you get through that first one, and you go, okay, cool. Like I know it in theory, but actually doing it for the first time, all right, I think I could do that again. And as you say, then it just becomes that repetition. And now you can obviously do it in your sleep, and you don't even think about it. You just rock up to a site and just, yep, this is what I'm here for, and blah 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 blah. But you don't have that muscle memory built up as of yet. So it can be really daunting in those first few jobs, but. Yeah, I think that, as you say, and I think it's important too for it probably to take too long at the beginning because it means that you're spending the time to getting it right as opposed to, I've just got to jump in, I've got to try and earn as much as I can because per hour I want to earn X amount, blah, 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 blah. And I think that's the wrong attitude. I think that you really want to get in there and go, let's do this properly, even if it takes me 3 times as long as it would have last time, or generally. I want to take the time to do it. Otherwise, you start performing bad habits and then you're just relearning bad habits over and over. So, yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. And how long do you think it was before you started to see a lot of that speed come in?
Ooh, um, probably a couple of months as the number of jobs started building. It was fairly slow to begin with, but yeah, the more I got to do, of course, the better I got at it.
Yeah. And you are obviously in Launceston. It's a smaller community, and Tasmania in itself is smaller. I think. Am I off the mark by? I think it's. I know Darwin is Darwin 200,000, or are you guys 200,000, or am I miles off the mark as far as population in regards to Tasmania as a whole?
That's a good question. Maybe about 250,000. But
Yeah.
I haven't looked
Yeah.
into that.
Yeah, and then obviously Launceston is significantly smaller than that. And again, are you guys the second biggest after Hobart?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, sure. So a smaller area, you're not in the heart of Sydney and you're not in the heart of Brisbane or whatever. So I know when I had call booked in, I was excited to talk to you because when you are regional, use the term air quotes, being I don't want to be insulting to the people of Launceston, but it is a smaller area compared to, say, as I said, central Sydney. Regional is a tougher market. It is, and you just don't have as many businesses there and stuff like that. So it takes a lot more leaning into the business, and it takes a lot more leaning into the community. How did you find that process originally, and trying to grow your business, especially in the first 12 months?
I haven't spoken with anybody to compare, but I think it was possibly harder. Uh, as you said, a smaller population, but borrowing from the radio days, I tried to say no to any job. A couple of times I've had to because yeah, I've had no choice, um, but of course that involves a bit of driving.
Yep. No, absolutely, and that's one thing that I always speak to people who are regional, especially in the test and tag space. Not so much in the pest control or cleaning space because we've got that residential and commercial clients, but in the test and tag space, it is the commercial only, and we can't unfortunately bring any more businesses into an area. We don't have the luxury of doing that. So the only other option to that is to lean into the businesses that are there more, and also open up your area of how far you're willing to travel, which I know you've done a great job of. I know we were just talking before we jumped on, and you'd been down at Hobart doing a job down there today, and I know that you go down there and you've got some larger clients down there through the government and stuff like that you travel down there from. So I think that's great, and I think that tends to be when you're in that first 12 months and you're growing your business, it can be a more of a challenging thing, being out in those more regional areas with a less population. But one thing that I've been really excited to see through your business is the growth from year one to year two. I think that's been really exciting. I know I was just reviewing your scorecard before we jumped on, and just looking at the last couple of months and seeing, I think one month was double the revenue and the other one was over triple the revenue. So getting into some serious numbers, which is great because if you're really looking after your clients and things like that, which I know that you do, then you can almost guarantee, like we have like around. It's like around 80 to 90% repeat work of our clients that stick with us. So then you can look at, all right, what did I build in year one? And if I'm servicing my clients correctly and I'm providing good value, and they're not waiting for them to chase me up, etc., I can almost take to the bank that 90% of them are going to follow me into year two. So then I get them with my new clients, and on top of that base that I've built in year one, and then same thing for year three. How's that felt for yourself? Have you noticed that? Have you looked at the numbers over the last few months and noticed that you've seen that big sort of jump up?
Yeah, it's very encouraging. But well, it's really good to have these new ones come through in the last couple of months, and it's really starting to fill out. Whereas, let's say last year, there'd be a few days, possibly even a week, where I haven't had anything booked, and that's where it gets the hardest, is when you got nothing booked. But now, it's it's a matter of trying to organise things in a way that makes a little more sense. Um, so if I do go down to Hobart, I can book a whole lot around there. I could, I've got a friend I can stay with down there, so book a couple of days and do all of that, and then come back up here. And but again, as I said, I try not to say no. And I was down in Hobart this morning to do one job, but in 12 months' time, then I can lump that in with other things while I'm down there, and it makes a little more sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, I can't remember if it was yourself that spoke to Sophie, who's in Western Australia in regional. And I know she's spoken to a couple of, maybe it wasn't you, I know she's spoken to a couple of the other regional kind of guys. And she's sort of 4 hours away from Perth. And she's growing a fantastic business on her hands, but she's 4 hours away. She's like Albany. And she just said yes to absolutely everything. It didn't matter if it was a minimum charge, didn't matter whatever it was. And she just said yes to everything. And now she's growing this really big business on her hand because she was just yes, yes, yes to everything. And as you said, she'll go down there now, but she'll lump together 5, 6 jobs, all on the same day, and it turns it into a significant day. And I think that's a really wise place to be. When you're in your first year of business, you really want to say yes to absolutely everything. When you get to year 2, 3 and onwards, you're in a different mode. You're in a different mode of business. That's generally where we're sort of suggesting to our franchise partners, you might want to be looking at a price increase across the board, maybe increasing things 10, 15% across the board. Let some of your clients drop off. That's okay, because you've got majority of your time built out anyway. You might be booked out 4 days a week or whatever. So if you let 10, 15% drop off, and then the rest of the clients, sort of the price is a bit higher, then you've got a day a week, a day and a half a week or whatever to fill back up again at that higher rate. But we don't normally suggest that in year one. In year one, it's about getting the ball rolling, getting things ticking over, being aggressive and being out there and gazelle intense and growing that business. But it's funny how the gear shift a little bit. And I'm sure it sounds like you've noticed that going from year 1 to year 2. And I only had a conversation with one of our other franchise partners that ticked over to year 3 just the other day. And he goes, wow, it's a big change from year 2 to year 3. You're in a completely different gear, and you're sitting on the highway in gear 5 with momentum and wind in your hair. Where in year 1, you're working, and you're saying yes to everything, and you're out there pushing with the local area marketing, and you're networking and doing all that sort of stuff. What sort of local area marketing did you do, especially in those first 12 months?
A lot of cold calling and dropping off of leaflets, but I found what was most effective was actually the ute. With all the driving, say if I was down in Hobart, I would find the next day or two I get a whole lot of inquiries or leads from where I was. So it's interesting, but yeah, invaluable to have the ute sign written.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got over 60 now vehicles getting around the place, and people spend a lot of money on advertising and stuff like that, and we have over 60 of them driving around all the cities and all over the country, and throughout New Zealand now as well, with the local guys branding, and it's worth its weight in gold. So yeah,
I've got
that's
a funny
great.
story actually.
Okay,
Not long
please.
after I came over, because I got my ute in Victoria, and there was a busy road where I parked a couple of days in a row, and a call came through to you guys asking if it had been stolen because it had Victorian plates, not Tasmanian plates.
Yeah, I think we should have said yes. Maybe we could have tried to get the police station as a client or something like that. And what would you say? What would you say? I know you've got a couple of clients that are in the government space. What would you say some of your favourite clients are that you get to deal with, or some of the favourite sites you get to go out with? What's the
I don't know how much I can say.
Okay.
I've never partaken, let's say, but medicinal marijuana place is very interesting.
Oh, okay. That is
Cameras on you
interesting.
the whole time, and a chaperone with you the whole time.
Really? Yeah, that is an interesting one. That is an interesting one. I've had some interesting ones myself back in the day. I remember going through, yeah, forensics in where they tap phone calls throughout the federal police and all these different sorts of places that were really high level that you'd never ever get access to. And as you say, walking through a medicinal marijuana business is not a place that a normal person would get access to. So yeah, that's fascinating. Um, okay, so what sort of advice would you give to? I try and add in as much value as we can for someone who's potentially at the stage that's looking at starting their own business or whatever. You've gone through the most difficult time in any new business, which is those first 12 months. Now that you've come through that 12 months and you're on the other side of that, and you've got the scars to prove it, and you've got some of the momentum to prove it and stuff like that as well, what's some of the advice you'd give to someone who is looking at starting their own service-based business and is in those early stages that you wish you knew now, and you have the wisdom of that now?
Question. I think for me, I think it was a lot of it was covered because I did have a chat with you well before making a decision, but I suppose making the decision for me was a long time happening. So um, my personality is I will cogitate on something for a very long time. Um, but yeah, yeah, pester you with questions is a good one if you have any. And yeah, and look into as much as possible all the will realize that it will be a hard time the first 12 months. Not sugarcoating anything, it is definitely a hard time. Financially is a big one. So making sure that you will be able to make it financially while you're going through that period is something I think is very important.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think the thing with test and tag is it's interesting because you can get those clients, especially with test and tag, which, you can do, say a $5,000 a week easily. Do you know what I mean? Like, but the problem with, and you go, oh my God, I did so well this week, and it's almost all profit, and that's amazing, and now it's repeat clients for next year and all the rest of it. The funny thing about test and tag is because it is that business to business only, and quite often the little hairdresser might not get it done, so you're looking at medium to larger businesses. You might do that, but then you might go the next 2 weeks with nothing, or a couple of very small jobs or whatever. So it's kind of riding that wave that's great, fantastic year, but then all of a sudden there's a couple of I need one of those jobs like every week would be awesome, or every month or whatever. So it's riding that wave, but I think the cool thing about it is, and forgive and let me know if I'm wrong on this, I think when you do have those jobs, you see the potential. And you go, right, okay, cool. Like, that's awesome. Like, I made a lot of money on that day and a lot of that money on that week. Now I just need to fill out the rest of my calendar with weeks like that one. And is that how you were kind of thinking about it at the time, or?
Yeah, yeah. It's a real encouragement when you do get those big jobs. um, even my dad would call every now and then, still does. And how's the business going? Well, he'd call me in the middle of doing Parliament House, and I say, well, this is my third day. Big job, that one. Well, how much have you earned so far? Oh, it's about this much. Oh, that's really good. So that encouragement, then you can hold on to that for the next week when you've got 2 minimum jobs.
Yep. Yep. No, absolutely. And that's the thing, isn't it? And I think the other important part of that, and this is one of the things I've been harping on a lot about throughout our onboarding and our training, is talking to our new franchise partners about budgeting and about forecasting and things like that. Because all too often, we'll see a new franchise partner that will have a job like that, or some sort of, fantastic month or whatever, and then all of a sudden they've gone out and they've brought a $3,000 couch, and then they've gone out and brought a big screen TV, and they've gone out and done all of this. And it's like, that's great, guys, like fantastic, that you had that really big month. But you really want to be making sure that you've got some of those retained earnings that are sitting in the business, because not every month is going to be like that, especially in the first year. If we're talking year 2, 3 onwards, it's a different conversation. Go get the big couch, go get this. But realistically, that emergency fund and those retained earnings and working capital within the business is a priority, as you say, when work can be bit here, bit there, and then a gap in between time. So it's a really important point, and I think that's why I'm excited that we're building that part out with our franchise partners, so that they can kind of understand that that's how it is in the beginning, and it's not like especially if they've had a 9-to-5 job their whole life, and they haven't had to sort of think about that budgeting, because every Friday it's payday, and I know whatever I've done for the week, if I've blown it all of my problems will be sorted out again on next Friday, because I'll get the same thing, and on it goes, and on it goes. And business isn't like that. It can be patchy, especially at the beginning days, and you need to have a system in place to be able to build it out for that. So, very, very cool. And so what's the plan for the next sort of 12 months, mate? What's the goal for the business and where are you looking to take it? Yeah.
Well, I suppose it's still building for me. Ideally, if I can guarantee, at least still at the moment, at least a job every day or 4 days a week, that'd be really good. But yeah, if I could fill out 4 days a week at least, and think, pie in the skies type stuff, it'd be good to employ somebody at some point, but we'll see how we go. That's, there are a few ideas, but whether we get to that or not, I'm not sure.
Yep. Well, I mean, statistically, you should. I think I have the luxury. I get to look at top down to a lot of the businesses, so I see the trend lines and the path that they're heading on. You're with franchise partners. Sometimes you're so close to it that you can't see the forest through the trees, and because you're in there every single day and punching up the clients and all the rest of it. It is hard to see that. But I guess that's the benefit of us being in the support center and just seeing purely the data is you see the trend line that the business is going on, and just like, okay, cool, this continues into year now in year 2 and then in year 3 and all the rest of it. It's like, okay, it just has no choice but not to continue on that line. So that's exactly where you will be heading, and we would have seen if you weren't now, because clients wouldn't be rebooking back in again, your repeat clients wouldn't have been going, or I quite often have chats with newer franchise partners who we're working with in regards to the customer service and things like that, and they think they're doing fantastically, and it's like, I can tell by the language and what's been taking place. I'm like, you're heading into a problem, but you're just not aware of it yet. And you'll only be aware of it in 12 months' time when those clients aren't rebooking in again. And then you'll go, oh my God, I've just burnt 12 months worth of clients because, maybe I haven't been providing them the customer service that I needed to, or the price point wasn't right, or whatever the scenario is. There's a million different things. But we've already seen that with you, and that's why we're seeing that compounding revenue, and as I said, either double or triple in the last 2 months of what you're kind of earning. So that proves the point that clients are already rebooking back in again. So you just have to do rinse and repeat, basically. You just need to make sure that you're contacting your clients from the year before, you're rebooking them in again, you're just doing your normal housekeeping that you're doing, and then you've got no choice but the business will, go into that trajectory, which is super exciting. And then it's this, it's a completely different mode you're in, which is it's a really exciting mode to be. And then you kind of get to make the choice, which is exactly what you were sort of saying. If 4 days a week is the goal, because you go, I know I can make enough in 4 days, and then have a day to myself, and then it's that balance between work-life balance and revenue, because sometimes making $500,000 a year, it's some people's goal, but other people they're going, well, I only need to hit, maybe 200 grand a year or 150 grand a year or whatever the number is, and I'm happy. I would rather that extra day off for that. And then, as you say, then you can look to, once you're at that point as well, you can kind of go, all right, well, maybe I bring on an offsider to help do the reporting for me. And then, once they've been doing that and they understand what the role is in the job and all the rest of it, maybe I'll send them off to get their license. And then maybe I'll let them have a go at a site by themselves, and I'll go off and do another site, and we're getting 2 sites done at once. And then you can kind of go, all right, well, we've only got 3 days worth of work this week, or 4 days worth of week. You do 3 days and I'll do a day, and I get to have that flexibility as well. So that's all the exciting stuff that's coming for you. As I said, you just need to keep on the path and just keep doing that housekeeping every month of doing what you're already doing, and it's going to head in a really incredible direction. So, no, I couldn't be more proud of you, mate. You're doing very, very well. So, thanks so much for jumping on with us today. I really appreciate it, and I love having that dive back in of how the business is going now, and going from there.
Thank you very much.
No worries at all. All right. Cheers, mate. Have a good one.